On a quiet night in June 1978, a 22-year-old single mother of two named Eiko Taguchi vanished without a trace. She was working a shift at Tokyo's Cabaret Hollywood, a popular nightlife destination in Japan. As she clocked out around midnight, she exited through the front door, intending to head home. But from that moment on, she was never seen again. What followed was a mystery that baffled investigators, her family, and the public for decades. Initially, no one suspected foul play. In fact, her manager believed that she had simply quit without notice, which wasn't unheard of in the nightlife industry. The authorities chalked up her disappearance to personal reasons, assuming she had chosen to leave her life behind. Little did anyone know that her fate was far more sinister, connected to a larger conspiracy that would only come to light many years later. Around the time of her disappearance, strange rumors were circulating in Japan. Whispers of North Korean spies working undercover to abduct Japanese citizens floated around. But these were dismissed as outlandish conspiracy theories. The Japanese government, alongside most of the public, viewed the idea as absurd, believing such a coordinated effort to kidnap innocent civilians could never happen. Unfortunately, time would prove these rumors to be tragically true. The shocking revelation. The case of Eiko Taguchi went cold for nearly a decade. No clues emerged, no suspects were identified, and her family was left in limbo, desperately hoping for any information. But in 1987, an unexpected event far from Japanese shores provided a disturbing lead. In November 1987, South Korea was preparing to host the Olympics in Seoul. During the preparations, a tragedy occurred. Korean Airlines Flight 858 exploded mid-air over the Andaman Sea, killing all 115 passengers and crew on board. The incident was immediately labeled an act of terrorism. An extensive investigation followed, revealing that two North Korean agents had planted a bomb in the plane's overhead storage compartment before disembarking at a layover in Abu Dhabi. As South Korean authorities closed in on the suspects, one of them took his own life by ingesting a cyanide-laced cigarette. However, the second agent was captured and brought in for interrogation. During this interrogation, a startling revelation emerged that would connect the dots to the abduction of Japanese citizens. The captured North Korean agent confessed that she had spent years in training for her mission, learning how to blend in as a Japanese woman. Crucial to her training was a woman named Eiko Taguchi, who had taught her the Japanese language and culture. This was the first real piece of evidence tying Taguchi's disappearance to North Korean espionage activities. But it wasn't just Taguchi who had been abducted. Her case opened the floodgates to a much darker and broader conspiracy: the scale of the abductions. Eiko Taguchi was far from the only Japanese citizen to have been kidnapped by North Korea. Between 1977 and 1983, a series of similar disappearances occurred across Japan. Ordinary citizens vanished, often without a trace, and the Japanese government remained skeptical of any involvement by foreign actors. The reasons behind the abductions varied. Some victims were taken for identity theft purposes, with North Korean agents using their identities for covert operations. Others, like Taguchi, were kidnapped to train North Korean spies in Japanese language and customs, enabling them to carry out undercover missions in Japan and other countries. Disturbingly, the kidnappings happened in broad daylight, and the abductees were ordinary people, going about their daily lives. One woman was snatched off the street while walking to a knitting class. A group of two friends disappeared while on vacation in Europe. And perhaps most tragically, a 13-year-old girl named Megumi Yokota was abducted while walking home from school. The randomness of these abductions, targeting innocent civilians with no connection to espionage or criminal activity, made the incidents all the more horrifying. North Korea's admission. For years, the Japanese government continued to dismiss the possibility of North Korean involvement. But as more evidence came to light, it became impossible to ignore. In 2002, after decades of denial, the North Korean government finally admitted to the kidnappings and issued a formal apology. However, their apology came with a troubling caveat. They claimed that only 5 of the 17 officially recognized victims were still alive. The others, according to the North Korean regime, had died due to illness or accidents, and their remains were sent back to Japan as proof. But the remains themselves turned out to be yet another deception. DNA tests conducted on the returned ashes revealed that they did not belong to the kidnapped victims. This blatant lie only fueled suspicions that more of the abductees were still alive in North Korea, held against their will. Despite North Korea's claims that only 13 people had been kidnapped, the Japanese government continued to uncover new information that pointed to a much larger scale of abductions. Some estimates suggest that as many as 800 Japanese citizens may have been abducted by North Korea, though the official list remains at 17 confirmed cases. The true number may never be known. The families left behind. For the families of the abductees, the uncertainty has been agonizing. Many have spent decades waiting for news of their loved ones, clinging to the hope that they are still alive somewhere in North Korea. The Japanese government has worked tirelessly to negotiate their return, but progress has been slow, and North Korea remains elusive in providing any concrete information. One of the most high-profile cases is that of Megumi Yokota, the 13-year-old girl who was taken in 1977. Her parents have become public figures in Japan, tirelessly advocating for the return of their daughter and the other abductees. Despite North Korea's claims that Megumi had died, her family refuses to believe it, and they continue to fight for answers. The ongoing diplomatic struggle. The issue of the abducted Japanese citizens has become a significant diplomatic hurdle between Japan and North Korea. While North Korea insists that the case is closed, Japan remains determined to uncover the truth and bring its citizens home. The abductions have also had broader geopolitical implications, affecting Japan's relationships with South Korea, the United States, and other nations involved in addressing North Korea's human rights abuses and nuclear ambitions. In 2014, Japan and North Korea reached an agreement to reopen investigations into the fate of the abductees. However, progress has been minimal, with North Korea often using the issue as a bargaining chip in negotiations over other matters, such as economic sanctions and nuclear disarmament. As of today, the families of the abductees are still waiting for closure. While some, like the families of the 5 victims who were returned to Japan, have been reunited with their loved ones, the majority remain in limbo. The North Korean government continues to stonewall efforts to get to the bottom of the abductions, and the full truth may never be known. A broader pattern of abduction. The abduction of Japanese citizens by North Korea is not an isolated incident. Similar kidnappings have occurred in South Korea, China, and even parts of Europe. North Korea's regime has a long history of using abductions as a tool for espionage and propaganda. In many cases, the victims were used to train spies, while others were forced to work in various capacities within the regime, including propaganda efforts. The abductions also serve a darker purpose. They instill fear in neighboring countries and demonstrate North Korea's willingness to violate international norms to achieve its goals. Despite international condemnation and efforts by organizations like the United Nations to address the issue, North Korea remains unrepentant and defiant in the face of scrutiny. The tragic story of the Japanese citizens abducted by North Korea is a reminder of the far-reaching human rights abuses committed by the regime. It also serves as a stark warning about the lengths to which authoritarian governments will go to maintain power and control. While the Japanese government continues to fight for the return of its citizens, the path to justice remains fraught with challenges. For the families of the abductees, the pain of not knowing what happened to their loved ones is a daily struggle. As the years go by, hope dims, but the determination to uncover the truth remains strong. The abduction of innocent civilians by North Korea is one of the most disturbing and unresolved chapters in the country's long history of human rights abuses. It serves as a haunting reminder of the regime's cruelty and the ongoing struggle for justice for those who were taken.